Today's episode of the Island Archives podcast is brought to you by Old Road Rum. Old Road Rum is driven by a desire to celebrate the cultural history of St. Kitts and Nevis and is tropically aged for 12 years to present the pure expression of a well-crafted rum.
This episode of the Island Archive podcast will bring us to a complex individual with incredible achievements who often found themselves in the middle of some high-stakes circumstances. Eugenia Charles was born in Dominica in 1919. After a brief stint in Dominica's convent school, she moved to Grenada to graduate from the St. Joseph's Convent School. Charles returned to Dominica, where she worked at the Colonial Magistrates Court as an assistant to Alistair Forbes, who was a magistrate and British government officer, often credited with compiling one of the first indexes of the island's laws. This spurred Charles' interest in the legal world, so she moved to Canada to attend the University of Toronto, where she received her LLB in 1947. She set her sights on the UK to attend the London School of Economics, where she would graduate with her LLM in 1949. Charles wouldn't stop there. In the 1960s, she began campaigning against the Dominica Labour Party government on issues like freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and eventually created the Dominican Freedom Party in 1968, where she was the leader, a position she held for 26 years. After sweeping the elections in 1980, she became Dominica's first, and to date only, female prime minister, as well as the nation's longest-serving prime minister and the first woman elected as the head of government in the Americas. Her legacy grew in leaps and bounds thereafter, but not without its complications and, of course, outrageous plot twists. 1981 was a busy year for Charles, as she survived two attempted overthrows of her government. In April of 1981, a group of Ku Klux Klan mercenaries planned a coup to restore former Prime Minister Patrick John to power. The plan was to charter a boat to Dominica and rendezvous with John's operatives, a plan they called Operation Red Dog. The Klansmen were intercepted and detained by federal agents in New Orleans, preparing to board a boat with automatic weapons, rifles, handguns, dynamite, ammunition, and a Nazi flag. They clearly weren't going on a golf trip. This debacle was facetiously dubbed the Bayou of Pigs, referring to the famously failed Bay of Pigs invasion before in Cuba, which is of course another story for another day. In December of that same year, Frederick Newton, commander of the Dominica Defense Force, organized an attack on the police headquarters in Roseau, resulting in the death of a police officer. The rebels also attacked Stock Farm Prison, attempting to free Patrick John and others jailed for their involvement of the earlier coup, resulting in the death of a prison guard. Newton and 5 accomplices were stymied and found guilty of the attacks, earning them the death penalty, but later, only Newton was executed and his accomplices given life in prison. Remember Operation Urgent Fury? Well, leading up to the US invasion of Grenada, Charles appeared on television with President Ronald Reagan at the White House, throwing her support behind the initiative. Renowned investigative journalist Bob Woodward reported that the US paid millions of dollars to the Dominican government for the cosign. As they say, politics makes strange bedfellows. Charles became known as the Iron Lady of the Caribbean, a reference to her steely, unrelenting, and even uncompromising stance on issues such as social welfare programs, individual freedom, and you guessed it, anti-corruption laws. Ironic, right? Eugenia Charles was an enigmatic behemoth in Caribbean history. Her achievements and her complicated legacy generate much intrigue and make her a perfect fit for the Island Archive.
The Island Archive podcast is a Pelican Media Group production and is brought to you by Old Road Rum. To hear more, log on to www.islandarchive.com or check us out on all streaming platforms.